Well, thank you all for those comments. It's so neat to hear, you know, like when you come across this in the beginning of your life, you think it's so, in the very beginning, you think it's so amazing, which it is, you know. And then, I guess in my head, I always thought that someday it would just be like a matter of course, like, oh yeah, we know this stuff now kind of thing. But you know, here we are, almost 40 years later, and I'm still astounded as I listen to people growing and changing and finding a new world. That just amazes me. Somebody was talking to me the other day about how they were struggling with boredom, you know. And I said, and I meant it honestly, now I'm sure that there are a few little exceptions to this, but I said, you know, I can honestly say since the day I met Sid Banks, actually since the day Jan met Sid Banks before I did, and we heard about the principles, I have never since then ever experienced boredom, because it's such a fascinating life. I mean, beginning to understand the power of thought to create our reality makes everything more interesting. It's so much more interesting when we understand and just even have a sense of or a taste of the forces that are creating our life. You know, that Sid's enlightenment, his experience was so profound and so powerful, and yet what I think is the most beautiful part of it is that it's transferable. The knowledge from it is transferable. We might not experience that kind of enlightenment like Sid did. We don't have to, because he shared everything that he learned, and every human being who's willing to quiet their mind and let go of their preconceived ideas can go inside. And all of those things that Sid discovered and all that knowledge about the principles and who and what we are as our true self, our true nature, resides in every last one of us. So anybody that's willing to quiet their minds and look inside, or if you want to call it look upstream, whichever way you want to look at it, has everything that Sid discovered available to them. Now, we may take it on a piece at a time or a little slower, but it's still the same thing. Like if you begin to realize, as some of you have in the discussions that you've put forward here, that thought is just that. It's just something that's going on in our heads. It's just a bunch of programming, you might call it, conditioning, that's rattling around in there, but that something more beautiful, something more powerful is happening at the same time, no matter what we think. You know, like that quote from Sid. He's talking about the now. Begin the process of nourishing the soul by living in the now. See, that's really interesting, because the truth as I see it is that you can't intellectually learn about what the three principles are, or even for that matter, what your true self is. I mean, because think about it this way, you're trying to conceive of those profound facts, those spiritual facts, within the context of your old thinking. It's impossible. It's impossible. You can't see a new world from an old world. You can imagine that it's there, which is great. That's a good beginning. You can recognize there's something beyond the world that you see on a moment-to-moment basis, and because we've all had glimpses, and because, you know, frankly, when we were children, that was the world we were looking at, that beautiful world, before all that conditioning. But you can't intellectually make your way back to that true self. So we might think, well, that provides us with a bit of a problem, you know, that the whole idea that a new paradigm can't be seen from an old paradigm because the old paradigm colors it. You're still in it. But the beauty is that the old paradigm, the old world, is an illusion anyway. So that makes it funny in a way. You know, I don't mean to, you know, belittle anybody's suffering or things that we've all been through, but we're fighting our way out of an illusion to see reality. There's another beautiful piece I heard on DVD that we were listening to this morning, and again, it's something I never heard. Sid said, he was just talking about finding your way home, and he said, we are all spiritual beings in this world, making our way. We are all spiritual beings making our way through this world to find ourselves. Now, that really flips things around, because he's not saying we're human beings looking for a spiritual understanding. He's saying we are spiritual beings trying to find our way home. So if you think about it that way, that's a description of a totally different journey. You know, it's not a journey of learning through your head, through your intellect. It's a journey of finding your way home. So if our thinking, you know, especially our thinking from the past, is preventing us from seeing that home, from seeing who and what we really are, if our devotion to the illusion is preventing us from seeing our true nature, then obviously intellectually we can't fight our way out of it. So it brings you back to that lovely thought that Sid has expressed in so many ways, that we're left with going inside. And what going inside means to me is listening, and being as present as possible. And that when we listen, when we have those moments when we're totally listening, we're not listening to our heads. We're not listening to the past. We're just listening. And that listening, that pure listening, is the portal to the now. Because all that really has to happen to see a new world, to just experience the now, is for the world that you see to just stop for the briefest moment. Just that 1 second when none of it exists. And in that 1 second, you get to see a new world. That's what presence really means. It means, and I'm just kind of going out there right now because that's what I'm just feeling that. What presence really is being totally and absolutely in the now. And listening is just the best portal possible to take you to that place. Because again, you can't intellectually learn about your true nature. I mean, you can get some nice ideas and some imagination, and that kind of helps. It might give you a sense of the direction that you want to go. But the learning is not in the intellect. And so what that leaves us with is learning through an experience. The way that Sid often says it is learning from a feeling. Well, that's when I say experience, that's what I mean. When we quiet our minds, when we experience that quiet state, when the world stops for just a moment, what we experience automatically is our true self. Because it's always been there. It hasn't gone anywhere. Our true nature, our true self, that beautiful spiritual being that resides within the soul of every human being on this planet, has been with them forever and will be with them forever. And it's when we experience that quiet that we feel it. That's what that beautiful feeling that we keep talking about is. It's not a beautiful feeling from somewhere else. It's not a beautiful feeling because of something you've heard in a talk. It's not a beautiful feeling because you've read one of Sid's books or anybody else's for that matter. It's the beautiful feeling that automatically comes about simply because your mind has gotten quiet and you go to that default setting that's your true self. And so you could say that the best way to learn about your true self is to stand in it. And whether you're going up and down, experiencing the contact sports side of life, it doesn't really matter. Every moment that you have when you just have that lovely feeling is moving you closer to your true self. And in that true self is the wisdom of the ages. In that true self is pure knowledge. And that's why, this is the part that's really kind of unexplainable, but I'll take my shot. That's why, through all of these years, we've seen thousands of instances with people who were so lost in their thinking, in their pain, in their suffering, in what's happened to them through the past, in the blink of an eye, find themselves in a new world. It's not that they've invented a new world or traveled to a new world, it's that they've stopped another one and experienced the one that was always, always there. Our health, our wisdom, our knowledge, our love has always been there. We're not looking for something new. We're waiting to experience our birthright.